I want to go in a time machine here, Ziggy. Okay? Let's go back to Sunday, October 30th, 2022. All right? The Detroit Lions have just lost 31-27 to the Dolphins. They're 1-6 on the season. Jared Goff in 2021 had gone 3-10-1 when he was the starter for the Lions. That would make him 4-16-1 as a starter in Detroit so far. Matthew Stafford, a year ago, won the Super Bowl with the Rams. The year after leaving the Lions, their franchise quarterback, their golden boy, immediately wins when he leaves. Your team has not won a playoff game since 1991, 30 years ago. You've never won the NFC North. Dan Campbell, no signs of him being a good coach other than saying, trust the process. You just got to trust me. Well, it's good that they trusted him. Because since then, 8-2 to finish 2022, 12-5 in 2023 with the 2 playoff wins, losing in the NFC Conference Championship game, and 15-2 this year. They are 37-10 since that day. And I can't help but wonder, is this the greatest turnaround? If they go and win the Super Bowl, will this be the greatest turnaround that we've ever seen an NFL team have? Especially given who the Lions are. You know, not just the records and not just the player storylines, but who the Lions were as a franchise. Is this possible? Like, what do you think of this?
There's only one other team I can think of that's had a turnaround even somewhat similar to this. And that's, I'm thinking, the 1999 Rams. Like, you look at that Rams team. They just moved to St. Louis a few years ago. Here's what they'd finished in their division the 9 years before then. 3rd, 4th, 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 4th. Then they expanded to 5. So they went 3rd, 3rd, 5th, 5th, win the Super Bowl, lose a wild card game, losing the Super Bowl. So like that Rams.
That's pretty quick, yeah.
Once Kurt Warner showed up, you know, greatest show on turf. They were incredible. Excellent year from them. But that Rams team, they hadn't won. They'd won a championship back in sometime in the early 1950s. You know, that was what fans could talk about. You sometimes hear Lions fans say, we never won a Super Bowl. We won some championships.
Well,
you probably weren't alive for that.
That's what Vikings fans say.
Yeah, no, it doesn't mean anything. The Super Bowl era is its own thing. And after that, they had a successful run for a long time. They hadn't won double-digit games since 1989. They won double digits for their next 5. So it was a great turnaround from them. There's no doubt about it. But this Lions team, I think, it would be the greatest of all time. It would beat even that. Because like you said, I mean, it's the history of this Detroit team. That Rams team had been to the playoffs a few times in the years before, right? They'd lost a conference championship game in 85 and 89. It had been a tough stretch of 10 years.
I mean, that's a long time. Like, you know what? The Rams
franchises have tough stretches of 10 years, but this is 25 years after that of Detroit misery.
I mean, and we're talking about they won one game. Like in 1991, they won one game, right? To go to before they lost in the conference championship, I think it was.
And that's offset by the time the Detroit Lions won 0 games in a season.
Yeah.
You know, like how many times it felt like in Detroit, you have some hope. Matthew Stafford was there for a bunch of years. You would have hoped to get something out of that. You get players like Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson, right? All-time greats. And nothing comes of it. Not even, you can't even say like the Vikings, like, we made a run, it didn't work out. Just nothing comes of it.
Ziggy, Matthew Stafford in 2024 is ranked number 4 on our playoff quarterback chart in the divisional round. Number 4. The Lions had him for a decade. They had Calvin Johnson, arguably a top 5 greatest receiver, top 3 greatest receiver of all time. And they did nothing. They were a joke that entire time almost. Like, you know, they had some teams that competed. They made a wild card. Maybe they made 2 wild cards. I can't remember. But generally throughout that time, it was like, we're playing the Lions, win. We're playing the Lions, win. And to have Jared Goff be the guy after what he had go on in LA, you know, you compare it to the Rams. Kurt Warner coming out of the grocery store is a pretty unbelievable story too. But Jared Goff basically being written off and then having their...
It was worse. He wasn't coming out of the grocery store. He was coming out of the dumpster.
having your quarterback too go and win in the first year that he left was such a gut punch to the Lions. And yeah, I think it probably would be. Because they're the Detroit Lions. Like this doesn't happen to them. And not only have they been good, 37-10, like since that October 30th day is unbelievable. They feel unbeatable right now. They've really felt unbeatable for like a season and a half. And they've basically been unbeatable. Unless there's something, I'm trying to think of the games that they lost. Unless they really screw up themselves, they just beat the crap out of teams. They're not really getting, I don't think that in their losses, they've just had other teams go off on them. I think it's because, they can't execute in the red zone. Like they miss a throw. They have the issues against San Francisco, like the lucky bobbles against San Francisco. They've pretty much been an unbeatable team. And it's very rare that they make mistakes. This is where like the curse would have to come in. That's the only way they're not getting to the Super Bowl. It's like the curse would come into play here. Can you imagine if Stafford went in and beat them in the conference championship? Oh my gosh, that'd be brutal. A loss to the Commanders this week would be devastating for the Lions. Like one of the most devastating losses in the history of football, I think.
I mean, that would be, then I might believe the Lions have transformed into us. Between the conference championship game last year and this game, I'd start to wonder, like, are they just the Minnesota Vikings under a new guy?
Or maybe the NFC North is just cursed now. Because even the Packers have had it bad.
Yeah, maybe it's when the Lions do well in the division, everybody else, including themselves, just everyone gets cursed because that's not supposed to happen. But look, it's, the Lions at this point, it's been a few seasons now. I think this speaks to the turnaround. They're not happy with winning 15 games.
No.
Imagine you go back to like just a few years ago, some of these Lions teams would say you're going to win 15 games. And you're going to say, if we don't win in the playoffs, the season's a huge disappointment. Fans will cry if the Lions lose to the Commanders in this game. Like the expectations have completely transformed. People will be wondering, should we be replacing the head coach after a 15-win season? You can see the story right now.
No.
You'll probably come on here and say they should hire Dan Campbell because he went for it on fourth down one too many times.
Even if they go for it on fourth down and lose the game, I'm not going to say fire Dan Campbell.
All I mean to say is this team is completely transformed. They are considered a genuine contender because they are. They're the odds-on favorite to win the NFC. Honestly, I'm taking them over the field. Now it's time to prove it, right? Even last year, I won't say it was a miracle run, but it felt like, okay, we're doing great. Dan Campbell has talked about how hard it is to get back to that conference championship game. It is very hard to get back. You've got the easiest matchup available to you, I think, of the four teams remaining. It's time to get it done.
Yep. It's time to get it done. 100% right. And I think they will. There's no reason to think that they won't.